All right, to explain what the main event is, this is going to be the segment every single week that is dedicated to the biggest storyline in the episode or the top two, if there's something really, really good. And for anybody that has watched the tell-all from this last Sunday, and that's the episode that we are going to break down in this podcast, we're at the end of the season of 90 Day The Other Way tell-all. And this is when an American goes to a different country, spends time with their soulmate, and then tries to pursue the relationship further. And the couple that was absolutely at the top of my list is David and Lana. And Cody, I'm telling you what, that when I think of David, and I think of everything that he's gone through, I'm sad for him, but I'm also envious of him. We're talking about a 60-some-year-old man that went on these dating sites, we thought 7 years ago. He's been dating Lana, a beautiful blonde woman, for 7 years. He's traveled to the Ukraine 5 times. The first 4 times, she didn't even show up. She didn't even have the audacity to show up. And her excuses were like, I'm watching my little brother, I don't feel well, and he just traveled halfway around the world to meet her. So most normal people would have long been gone. But we find out in the tell-all, and I want to get your reaction to this, that he's been going to the Ukraine since 1995. He has spent almost $300,000 on these websites that you pay by the minute to talk to these girls. And if you bring up the fact that she's not real, or she wasn't real, or their relationship wasn't real, he gets very defensive, very indignant, and on the tell-all this week, he acted the same. And shock of shocks, Lana did not show up. Were you surprised that Lana didn't show up, even though she finally showed up in the final 2 episodes and they got engaged, which shocked the entire 90 Day Fiance world?
I was not shocked. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I don't think there's a phrase for fool me 6 times. This man has spent all of my life, practically, trying to go to the Ukraine and meet up with these women. I was born in 1993. By the time I was 20 years old, this man had already been pawning for almost 2 decades to try and get with these women overseas. And what I don't understand is David is obviously well off. He has money. He can spend money to talk to people. We know that there are cheaper ways to have companionship if you want to pay for it. But why can't he find love in America? He seems to be successful. He's, albeit, a very creepy dude. But what do you think about that? Why do you think he has this almost addiction towards the rejection or towards the outside normalcy reactions that he has?
Well, I think that dating now in the United States is very, very difficult because dating apps have become the new normal. And you don't just go out to a bar or you go to a restaurant and you meet somebody. I think that when you've been rejected so many times, and I don't say rejected as a bad thing or taking a knock at David, it's just the way things are. And a lot of times if you keep trying, everybody wants to have a relationship. Nobody likes to be single. At least I don't know anybody that stands up and says, you know what, I would love to be single. Those type of people live in the mountains somewhere. Everybody wants that interaction. So I'm envious that he kept going and kept going and kept going. But some of the things that come out of his mouth are so ridiculous. For instance, he gave her an iPhone so that they wouldn't have to talk on the app anymore or the website. And 2 things, he wouldn't have to pay for the website anymore, and they could talk on FaceTime without it costing a lot. She took the iPhone and then claimed she couldn't use it because her fingernails were too long. Classic. So when he brought that up on the show, first of all, I was on the ground laughing. And then my man Easy Ed, who's my favorite character on the entire franchise, Ed starts bashing David, saying, you got scammed. She went after you. And David, of course, says, you know nothing. He threatens to shut the computer and says, I'll leave it till Ed's gone. Well, Ed was going nowhere because Ed's the greatest. And we'll get to Ed later in the podcast. But when I look at this now, and I look at this relationship, and I think, where is it going, or is it already over? I believe that she was paid to show up. I believe that producers found her, talked her into showing up, and talked her into doing those few things like bowling or whatever they were going to do. because it wouldn't have been a fun ending or an interesting ending if she never would have shown up. You know what I mean? So it made for better episodes. It made for better talk like you and I are doing right now, for her to show up and then to ghost him. And I found this was amazing. When he was asked on Tell All, are you guys together? He says no. He was asked, are you guys still engaged? He said yes. How are you both? How are you both? The man lives in a delusional world. And I feel bad for him because he wants so badly to have her in the United States. He wants so badly to be married. But at this point, after 7 years, it has to be over, right? It has to be.
Never even began. That's what I don't understand.
I found it hilarious in the episode before the Tell All. And he was at the airport. He was in his feels. And the night before he left, she told him, I can't hang out with you because I'm babysitting my little brother or cousin. And he traveled to Ukraine. So he's spending the last night in his hotel. And he says, I got to leave for the airport like at 4 a.m. She actually showed up to go to the airport with him, which shocked me, by the way. And when they get to the airport, he is doing that awkward, ugly hug that he has with the long coat that he wears. And he turns around and the music goes and he comes back and he gets down on one knee and he asks her to marry him. And you see all these people that are looking, and they were all thinking what you and I were thinking. What the hell is this guy doing at 5 o'clock in the morning asking a woman to marry him in the middle of this crazy Russian airport? And it just, the whole entire thing makes me laugh. It makes me sad for him a little bit. But at some point, you've got to say, this was never real. And you've got to move on. And at this point, I think everybody with 90 Day Fiance, all the fans, it's a train wreck that you can't just look away from.
Well, I'll tell you, the thing that the show didn't give him and the thing that 90 Day Our Way will give him is an opportunity to spend that money in a great way. So, hey, David, if you're watching, write us a check.
We'll take $50K and we'll date you online just like she did. And to put a bow on this, he hired a private investigator. And what should have been the biggest red flag that he could ever have, the private investigator comes back and he says, Lana's on 8 of these websites. Not 1, not 2, 8. And she's doing this with a lot of different men. What did David say? Hey, she's been on these websites for years. That's where her friends are. If she didn't have these friends, she wouldn't have any friends. And you just put your head in your hands. You're like, what in the world is he talking about? Oh, this is how she makes her living. She scams guys across the world. And it's crazy to me. But that's why David and Lana, they are my number one in our main event. But Cody, there was a very, very close number 2. Baby girl Lisa and Usman. Nigeria's own rapper extraordinaire. He's a huge star in his country. And like a lot of these relationships, there's a big age gap. So she's in her 50s. And he is, I think, 29 or 30, maybe not even 30 yet. And this, to me, is the most volatile, craziest, funniest relationship on the entire franchise. Because this woman literally traveled to Nigeria to date this man. And he wrote a song for her. He performed it at a nightclub for her. And all of his little fans, teeny bopper fans are singing it. And then they look over and they see this woman, blonde, white, amid all of these very dark Nigerians, sticking out like a sore thumb and just dancing. If we were allowed to play the music, we would right now. Because it's actually not a bad song. It's not a bad song. I've sang it many, many times in the shower. However, the entire thought process that this man could be in love with this woman, who, by the way, on the tell-all, admitted that over the years, she has dealt with 300 different men that she calls Yahoo boys per year. That she knows how these scammers work. She knows how they get you in and then they blackmail you and make you give them money so you don't embarrass them. So all of these different things go into this relationship, and it's hilarious because you can see right away. And how many people have you had in your life, Cody, that you look at and you say, if they could just change how they act, they would have so many more people that would want to be around them. When I look at Lisa, that's what I think. She's mean to everybody. She yells at everybody. And yet, Usman is still there every single step of the way. My question to you is, why? Why does he stay?
I mean, I think the answer is green. It's a card. He thinks, I believe, that his stardom is limited because he's in Nigeria. I think in his head, he believes that he is a star because he has all of these people fawning over him. He has the attention in his own country. He has people that are interested in him. And I think in his messed up psyche, he believes that he can be bigger. He believes that what it takes is to him to get to America and really get to superstardom.
But I'm glad you said that, because here's where that thought process, which was the same that I had, doesn't make any sense. On this episode, on the tell-all, Sean Robinson, the host, who I think does a good job of navigating all the different people, especially when it's done virtually. It's so hard to have to listen and think. And Usman said, I have no desire. I have no I'm not even thinking about moving to the United States. And I thought to myself for a second, but that was the whole point. The whole point was to move to the United States to grow his career. So then, of course, Lisa was like, well, we've talked about it. And because we fight so much, right now everything is very rocky. So I actually wrote down some quotes. I wrote them down, some quotes from baby girl Lisa that she said on the show that just made me laugh. She said, we didn't break up. We just blocked each other. They're already married. They got married in his country on the very first trip. Who blocks their husband from social media? Apparently, baby girl Lisa does. She said, I'm going to hang up because all the BS coming out of fans' mouths. So she always threatens to hang up the phone because she doesn't want to talk about these fans. One particular fan that Usman said, if I don't respond to my fans, it hurts my career. How many wives do you know that if their husband says to them, hey, sweetheart, the reason I was texting this woman that I love her is because she has 2.3 million followers and she can help my career? I would say 0 wives would be cool with that. Baby girl Lisa is not cool with that. And then the funniest thing on the tell-all is when Ed stuck up for Usman, and he said that, I don't know if you saw how far back you watched, but she had to buy a goat for Usman's mother to try to get her to give them their blessing. Okay, that was part of the ritual, is buying a goat, which was hilarious to watch them pick out a goat, by the way. And Ed jumps in and goes, Usman, I have so much respect for you. She treated you like a goat. And Lisa jumps in and goes, you're the goat. You're the goat. You're the goat. Now, in the United States, we'd be talking about Michael Jordan. But on this particular show, she was calling Ed a goat. Only in 90 Day Fiance can you call somebody a goat, and it doesn't mean that you're the greatest of all time. And at this point, we don't know what their future holds, but we will talk about that in our Back to the Future segment as we wrap up the show a little bit later. But those two topics, that was our main event.